Cudmore, co-founder of Self-Seen, co-founder and leader of Self-Seen, I should say.
Greg Smith, co-founder of Self-Seen. My role probably more around the structure of Self-Seen and how Self-Seen operates from the back end.
So Self-Seen was founded in 2020, right before COVID hit, and we started off wanting to create a platform for men to come to be seen and heard, to be vulnerable, but ultimately normalise vulnerability in men in particular. We wanted to support men on their journey, whatever that may be, whether it be situational, whether it be depression, anxiety, financial issues, whatever it may be. We just wanted to make sure men had a platform, somewhere to come and be supported on their journey. Since obviously 2020, we've grown massively, had a lot of support from the community, but more importantly, we've had a lot of members come along and a lot of members turn into leaders, and our organisation's grown. We have these 3 amazing platforms now. We do our weekly men's meetup, 7 a.m. at Shelley Beach, which is a really good way for men to come down and see what we're all about. It's not necessarily a scary thing to come down there on a Sunday. It can be hard, but the whole point of it is winning the morning, winning the day, starting the week off fresh and finishing the week off strong. And you get to meet a new bunch of blokes as well, and I think that's the most important part. There's a lot of loneliness in the world, and a lot of men feel like they don't have anywhere to go. They don't feel like they can talk to their partners or anyone in their life for the fear of feeling weak or whatever it may be in their own life. And I think by creating these platforms that we have, it normalises them, and also normalises the professional side of things for men to not feel so scared to seek the professional help. We can ultimately, we're a referral service as well. Like we do have our spaces. We are training mental health to a certain degree, but ultimately we're not professionals. We're just a bunch of blokes who've gone through it and continue to go through it, and that's why we've created this platform, and to normalise that and lead them in the right direction. Because when men feel depressed or anxious or suicidal, they don't know where to turn. They can, and it's anyone in particular, and when we can sort of say, hey, this is where we sort of come in. We say, hey, look, this is a good avenue. We'll go to your GP, we'll get you in to see a psychologist. And I think now that we have a counsellor on board, we can get them directly straight away help. And ultimately, when we work on ourselves, we're better for ourselves, we're better for our kids, we're better for the wider community, we're better at work, and the less stress when we do the work on ourselves. And for us to have the platforms that we have with our workshops, teaching tools, healthy habits, and we really talk into journaling and breath work and meditation, all these holistic approach to mental health, and not just the clinical side of things, where we have a toolbox full of tools to use when we do feel low and depressed or anxious, or just when we don't know what's going to be around the corner. We might be hit with something next week or tomorrow, and we're just like, oh, this has come up for us. Now we've got these arsenal of tools that we can go, righto, we can talk about it. Number one, vulnerability is our major thing. Vulnerability and being heard, and making sure we feel that little bit lighter, and then we can utilise these breath work and going for exercises, and journaling and talking about our issues and all these sorts of things that we normalise. I think that's the most important part about what we do is pretty much.
We didn't have a blueprint as to how this was going to work. We pretty much started off with the Sunday morning walks at 7 a.m. and that's all they were a walk, a chance to connect. And then what we found over time was some people coming to the Sunday morning meetups weren't able to physically maybe do that walk as easily as others. Hence where our slogan came from, no one walks alone. We didn't want to leave anyone behind at the beach, so we decided to change things up a little bit, maybe not make it as full on a walk, and make it more about that connection. We started a barbecue, and what we saw was by doing a barbecue, the men really started to connect. It broke the ice for them. It gave them an opportunity to walk up and talk to somebody else without actually just walking up to somebody and talking to somebody else, because there was something to actually talk about, the barbecue and the bacon and the eggs and whatever. So it was a bit of an icebreaker. So that changed that Sunday morning walk. And then of course we introduced the men's circles, which happen once every fortnight. And that's where any of the men that really are struggling and want to talk about things in a little bit more depth, and I guess get things off their chest in a safe environment that's more structured, then they have that opportunity to come and do that. And that's growing and growing. I mean, I think the last men's circle we had nearly 18. I think we had 17 or 18 men there. So it's kind of getting to a stage where we might have to do it every week because the demand's there. And then every 2 months we do the workshops. And the workshops consist of, again, men's circles, but things like breath work, ice bars, journaling, different things that we can help train the men in and give them an option for possibly finding a way of using it as a better coping mechanism than, say, drugs and alcohol, gambling. How we've grown as an organisation is probably in the sense of we have slowly identified different areas where there's a need, and if we can't fulfil that need, how we can bring that need into the organisation. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. The biggest game changer for us probably in the last 3 months has been we are a referral system. And if our referral's pretty straightforward and simple. And if we ask somebody to go and see their GP and we recommend they get on a mental health plan and get in to see a psychologist so they can speak to somebody professionally, that process here on the Mid-North Coast could take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. In that time, it's a really critical time for people that are suffering mentally. It's a long time for them to wait for that help. So Ben and I met with a great guy called John, who is a psychologist, and we basically said we need somebody on tap. So we now have John. We prepay for John 10 hours a month, and he's on call for us. So if we've got somebody struggling, we can triage that person in a professional sense whilst they're waiting to get into their GP or getting to see another psychologist. So John's not their long-term psychologist, but he is their interim, so that they feel like they've got that support. And that's something that we could never provide before. We would only encourage them to try and get that help. Now we have that person in our organisation that can just deliver something professionally, and that professional guidance that we just simply can't do. So for us, it's been probably the biggest growth thing for us, because we really feel like now we can truly say that we can help people. We can't just, it's not just a matter of leading them now, we can actually help them.
I'd say there's this quote that I heard, 10 seconds of courage. And I know how hard it is to get out of your car to come down for the first time. You can be stressed, anxious, a bunch of blokes just standing around in a circle having a bacon egg roll, especially for your first time to come down there on the Sunday. It will take courage to come out of your car and come over and say good day, but I guarantee you once you get around there and say hello to everyone, and you'll feel that'll drop, that anxiety will drop, that stress will drop, and you'll feel welcomed. And that's what we do. We make everyone feel welcome. That's the whole point of what we do. You don't even have to be struggling. We've got blokes down there that just come down who are just, might not have many people in their lives, might be just lonely. A couple of young blokes just come along just for a chat and a laugh. You don't necessarily need to be at rock bottom to come down. You're welcome to come down when you're happy, you're welcome to come down when you're sad, when you're crying. But yeah, once you get out of your car, you'll feel welcomed and supported, for sure.
And the only thing I'd add to that too is if they are really struggling with coming down to something like that on a Sunday, we're contactable through our social media pages. If they DM us and say, look, I am really struggling, I've come down and I want to come down, but I'm hesitant to come out, then we're happy to have a chat with them on the phone and meet them beforehand and bring them in as walk in with them. And that's happened before, and it only takes once, and then they're right. Once they're there and they meet a few of the boys, that's it. They're part of the crew. So that's the other option for them as well.
I'd also recommend if you don't get in touch with us and you are on the fence and you feel a bit stressed about getting in touch with us via Facebook, get down there early and come over early. Be one of the first blokes there and grab a pair of tongs, because cooking the barbecue can minimise that stress as well. Just by that's a good way of breaking the ice and getting down there early, so there's not such a big group when you first show up. So everyone's welcome. It's pretty immense. The amount of change and the stories we hear come back to us is what fuels us to keep going. Honestly, that's the stuff that gives us the energy to continue, because these amazing men keep showing up each week for themselves. There's one thing we do each week at the end of the walk. Sometimes we get in a group at the end and we just have a bit of a chat, and we always just express something, a win for the week or a bit of gratitude, and we explain why, because it's so easy to concentrate on all the bad stuff in the world at the moment, all the negative stuff that's happening to us, whether it's relationship breakdown or all these little situational things, or it can be depression, anxiety, or whatever it may be. These things that are coming to us, it's so easy to focus on the bad stuff. So what we do is plant that seed with gratitude or something, a win for the week, and that's something that they can take away with them that day, just on the Sunday, something so simple. And another motto we say at the end of that circle is do something good for yourself this week and do something good for others. Because when we do something good for ourselves, we feel good, but when we do something good for others, we feel fantastic as well. And that's the best part that I like to hear the men through the week in the Facebook group and the messages that you receive to say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then it opens up their life to want to do something better throughout the week, not just come down on the Sundays. They're actually doing something for themselves on the Monday and the Tuesday. They celebrate a Wednesday win or a good day on a Thursday and finish the week strong. We get blokes showing photos and in their ice baths and going for their morning walks in the sunshine and just spreading that positivity within the group. And I think that's the most thing that I love about the group is all these men now showing and leading the light, being the light amongst us all as well. And that sort of keeps us going. And just some stories we hear back just to say, they're grateful for the group of Self-Seen in particular. I think that's the most beautiful part. And ultimately, we've created Self-Seen, but it's bigger than us. It's the community's group, and we're here for our community. This will continue to go out and further, obviously. But I think that's what we're most proud of. That now all these men know that there's a way to be better. And what that does, that sends a positive ripple out to their family and their friends as well, which when the positive ripple they send out to their family and their partners is truly amazing, I think.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the changes that happen in some of the men, it's obviously quite varied. We've recently just started up Bonnie Hills walk as well, and that's same time on a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. And I think our goal is to eventually have hopefully 3, 4, 5 different locations all on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. running, so that it's convenient and easy for people to get to one of those. And I went to Bonnie Hills last week and met with some of the men down there, and it's just everyday blokes, and a lot of them aren't even sure why they've gone down there. They've just, I met one guy, he's retired and he's worked his whole life, and I guess he's struggling to slow down because he's so used to doing stuff his whole life that, to turn around and just stop like that, he can't just sit there. He needs to be active. He needs to do something. He needs to be engaged in something. So I think there's a lot of reasons why people seek places like Self-Seen, men's sheds, those types of things, and all of it boils down to is connection and an ability to have some kind of purpose in their life. Then you get the younger guys who got young families or maybe not even having families yet, and there's situational things happening with them that they're not quite sure how to deal with, and often they think they're a failure because something like a relationship's failed or a business has failed, or there's financial pressures and how do I get out of this? And coming down and talking about it sometimes just gives them an opportunity that they can speak about something that they might not be able to speak about with their wives or their kids, or because they don't want to burden them with it. They just want to, but they do want to talk about it. And because we're not emotionally attached to their story, we can sit and listen without judgment, without feeling any kind of hurt by what they're saying. And I think that's quite powerful. And also it allows the other men, whilst you're listening to somebody speak, you can often relate to that, maybe not now, but maybe you'll think, oh, that could happen to me in the future. And hopefully that gets people the idea that so long as they keep getting up each day and putting one foot in front of the other, things do get better. You don't just stay in the same situation forever. If you make that choice, you can move out of that situation, but some situations take longer than others.
I think a lot about what we do is giving hope as well. I think that's the key. And whether they are struggling, like Greg was just saying, or with these situational things, just that little glimmer of hope is sometimes all we need, that little shining light thinking, all right, I'm not alone, but I've got to do this myself, but I need to accept the help as well. And by talking about that and receiving the help, putting a hand up as men is pretty hard, and I find that still hard. I have to push myself to ask for help, and I think that's a major thing about us as leaders. We have to continue to check in on ourselves. We're leading this organisation, and it's not easy at times. I think the most important part is checking in on ourselves, making sure we're okay as well, because we can't give what we don't have, and when we do, we go downhill. We got a lot on our plates as well. Just the surrounding areas mainly. Like we've got it at Bonny Hill, so we just don't want men to think that they have to travel from North Haven all the way to Port Macquarie on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Blokes from Moorhope. We want to have that connection, around the area. Who knows? It might spread Australia wide. Like we've got a pretty good system going. It's pretty simple and easy, and it's adaptable to any city or town. We didn't invent this either. So there's other groups out there, but it's as far as we can sort of push it. Like obviously we've got a lot on our plates, but if we can get other people with the same passion and vision as us, wanting to help people and the time on their hands and willing to do it, I think it can go as far as it needs to. Yeah.
I think too, it's not just about funding. You can't do it without manpower. You can't do it without people. Like Ben says, they've got to have that passion for it. They've got to understand the consistency, and it can't be down to one person. No, not one person runs Self-Seen. It's run by a number of people, and it requires a number of people to put their hand up every week and help us out. So I think that's going to be the same. The guys at Bonny Hills have got a good core group there that are, if one's not available or sick or whatever, then there's always somebody there to do the bar, and there's someone else that will step up. I think the other areas of growth for us will just be more education and more awareness. Potentially, we would like to see Self-Seen. We're currently hoping to work on a program that, could be potentially introduced into the public health system. The hospital system isn't exactly a great place to go from a mental health perspective. When you compare what happens in a hospital psychiatric ward to if somebody had the money to go to a private mental health clinic, it's chalk and cheese. And the scary part is that we're in 2023, and I don't believe that it should be chalk and cheese. I think they should be closer. We know a lot of the holistic stuff works, and I think it's time the medical side of things open their eyes to that and embrace it. So hopefully we can adopt a program that we can provide potentially as a pilot program to assist in making sure that not only are people potentially medicated, but also get the ability to, there's no magic pill, so they need to get that out of their head. They need to understand that there are other options there to assist, work in conjunction, and ultimately work on their own to help people get their mental health wellness back. And I guess we're an over 18s group. We do see a big problem with our youth here, and there's some great work that's done by Headspace and places like that. I think we would probably be looking to fund some form of male youth programs in the schools, which we're working on at the moment to try and see if we can bridge that gap a little bit, so that when they do come out of high school, at least if they know about organisations like us, if they do run into trouble, they know to seek us out first. They don't need to find out about it years later when they've already sort of hit the wall.
And also we can build integrity within themselves as well, and build their self-worth, and try and minimise the bullying with our youth. And I think that's a major factor. I think what we've got to get out there, and that's something we'd definitely work on with if we were to start a youth group, which we're definitely going to work hard to do with the right tools and right funding and right people in place. I think if we build the self-worth, know that they can talk about their issues and their feelings, their emotions, whether it's at home or whether it's at school, and minimise that bullying and show that that hurts certain people, and we can be kinder to each other. And I think that goes with adults as well. I think we need to all be kinder to each other, and I think that's with the youth. I think that's a big thing at the moment with
Definitely.
us. Yeah.
I'm Jesse McGarity. I'm Port local for about 28 years, 26 years. Before that was pretty hectic in my life. Port was the first place we got to settle down pretty much. So, yeah, but a lot of people know me from hospitality. I was a long way into my journey of my mental health and being on the right path. Like, I've got a family. I've got a 20-year-old stepdaughter, a 17-year-old stepson, and a 12-year-old daughter of my own. So yeah, I'd been trying to better myself for my family, but felt like I was doing it on my own. My wife was the most amazing person. It has been biggest support. I've known Benny, I think I first met him at his 16th birthday, or 18th, I can't remember. He was living near the tip. So I've known and been in Port, knowing everyone, you hear stories and you hear different things, and I knew went down this way and now he's this way, and yeah, I think it was just seeing his Facebook and also hearing it from mates and new mates, and like we've had a lot of people kill themselves and die, and yeah, like if you Port local, you know someone that's kind of had a rough time. So yeah, I think just Facebook, Benny, I just turned up there with Mick and started the Sundays, and then I went to the Tuesday nights, which is a bit more personal. But it's good because there's no judgment. Everyone's on a different path. Self-seen is different for everyone, but it's good for everyone. Like Tuesday nights, my favourite thing about Tuesday nights is you sit in the circle, no one talks except for the person talking, and I think listening is very powerful, and just having a group of people listen without asking questions or saying anything, just and at the end of the night, it's like you can talk more about it if you want to, or you don't have to. It's just non-judgment, strong group of blokes. The way I show up for myself, the way I can see things like I'm doing wrong. Like I've always read books or audio books and a lot of self-help and mental health, and so you listen to it, but I never put it so much into practice. If I did, it'd be for a little while, but having self-seen makes me kind of show up for myself more. No one takes you for account, like what you say. They do deep down, like people need to trust what they're hearing. If the mountain was me, I climbed up a bit and I was going, and self-seen just helps me keep climbing. Like if I don't go for a couple of weeks, someone will message, go, hey, how you going? Not why aren't you here? Just, yeah, even when Benny rang me to do this, he's like left me a voice memo, and so no pressure. Like really, there's no pressure. I thought of you, which was one of the biggest things in the last 6 months for me, was him seeing that where he's seen me, that he thinks it's a success, which is, I don't know if the word's affirmation, or it's really locks it in that I'm doing the right path, which I didn't have before. I had my wife and my family, and I knew I was getting better, but just having the support network and the men's workshops, yeah, I'm just in a heaps of better place. If you're a friend of mine, just message us and I'll come pick you up and take you. find someone that might be there, so you've got someone to walk in with. It's the hardest bit is walking in on your own, but self-scenes, no one walks alone. That's one of the no man walks alone. So like I said, that's how I had someone take me. I've had people message me and say they want to go, and I don't pressure them. I remind them. I say, hey, I'm going this week. You want to come? Pick you up. Or just, if you don't get suffering, just come have free bacon egg roll on a Sunday. Tuesday's different. You can lead your way up to that. But just come on a Sunday and say hello. That's a group. And it's not like we're strict down there. Everyone's blokes would make jokes. There's respect for everyone, but it's just like hanging out with mates that are on the same path. So as soon as you get over that grass into the barbecue, it's easy, and you'll thank yourself.
I'm 35. I'm originally born and bred here in Port Macquarie. I've recently come back to Port after living abroad for 10 years. Been here just over 3.5 years. So yeah, being back home has been really nice and settling back in. I mean, I had mild anxiety, but nothing sort of too crippling or pressing for me to sort of really need or seek any help. But I had a pretty significant sort of moment in my life where my dad was diagnosed with leukemia, within a year of me coming home, and that really hit hard home, where I'd been away for 10 years and I'd only just come home, and it was the possibility of losing my dad, and looking back on all that time that I could have spent with him while I was away. And I ended up having quite a severe panic attack and led to a little bit of a mental breakdown. It was quite crippling. And sort of after a month or so dealing with that and processing that, I reached out to Benny and Self-Scene and sort of seek some assistance that way. I think it opened my eyes up to not just seeking counselling and psychology and some of those actions, but just things that we can do ourselves. Little tools such as breath work and ice baths, and just even the communication with talking to others who may be going through something similar, and that whole feeling of knowing that you're not alone is really impacting. It's hard to explain. I feel really comfortable where I am and what I've gone through, and the tools that I've been able to learn along the way to be able to better myself and others going forward. So I could say that I've changed dramatically for the best, being with Self-Scene and being part of that community. Well, it's huge. I mean, Elders has a massive brand here in Port Macquarie and a huge presence. Having our name next to their branding is a lot, because the whole point of Self-Scene is getting the word of mouth out there that it's okay not to be okay, and that if you are struggling, that there are options out there such as Self-Scene to reach out. So Elders putting their branding next to ours is quite significant in the community, in just getting the awareness out there that we exist. Elders' involvement in helping with fundraising is so significant with our plans of bringing counsellors and psychologists on board to have full access to community members who may not be able to afford that. that it's hard to sort of really try and explain how big that is and what an impact that's going to have to everyone in the community, not just in self-seen, but people who have access to that. Yeah. It's sort of hard to say from my point of view, but I definitely feel that there's members of the community that feel comfortable reaching out to me and communicating with me and talking to me about anything that's going on or asking for advice, knowing my story, and I've been very open with some of my troubles in the past for that very reason, to make others feel comfortable that they can discuss things with me, and I can talk to them about the help that's out there, that's available medically, and also just give them some of the details of some scenarios that they might be dealing with that I've dealt with in the past and how I've handled it. So I'd like to think that I've made a little bit of an impact there.